Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Jim Callahan, who's the founder and managing partner of Saza Wealth Partners. Jim, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I always love talking with new people and learning about their business and entrepreneurial journey. And it really doesn't matter what your business is and when you started it and what you do, unless you have kind of that story behind it and that why, because, it's so important to learn what motivates and drives people. So I'm sure maybe one day back when you were 5 or 6, you didn't think I'm going to be a certified financial advisor. So kind of give me a little bit of background on yourself. On your entrepreneurial journey, what led you to the field of financial services?
Sure. No, you're absolutely right too. I've spent my whole career in the investment business. I think that really stems from an internship I had in college at a local Dean Witter brokerage office, if that name rings a bell for anybody out there. But that's what really turned me on to investments. But of the 26 years, I've spent 17 of those years working with individuals, high net worth individuals, small business owners, executives, as opposed to the institutional side. I did some time as an equity research analyst, but really the bulk of my career working with individuals. And I think, what I love about it is taking, my passion for finances, and particularly personal finances, and marrying that to each individual case, because everybody's different. We're not in the business of widgets. Everybody's different. Everybody thinks about things different, values things differently. And so I started, my firm is only in its 7th month of operations, but I bring a lot of that experience to, here's how I'd love to deliver that to individuals.
You said something really important there that, it's not what it made me think of is not a cookie cutter template, next, here's your financial plan, here you go. It is everybody has different goals and aspirations and backgrounds and needs and desires. And that's what's really important. And you bring a big firm analytical, mindset to bringing down to high net worth individuals to say, hey, let's talk. Let's just create a relationship and let me get to know you and let's figure out together, arm in arm kind of a thing, not, here is what I've done for 328 people exactly the same way last month. Let's do it for you as well. Wow. Where's the customization in that? So what do you find that you're working with when you talk with a business owner or an individual? What are you looking for what to point out? What are you looking for as far as even opportunities regarding where you would guide them?
Sure. I think, there's a couple things to that. I think the obvious one is that, and I think any good advisor, just like going to the doctor's office, or if you walk into a restaurant and you say, hey, give me, what do you think I'd enjoy? What's your best dish here, et cetera. I think that any good advisor is trying to learn where somebody has some financial strengths and where they have some financial exposures and weaknesses. And sometimes they don't even know that they have those. And that's where some good exploration in those early conversations is so important. But through all of that, that's kind of the black and white side of it. So that's the, you can write down numbers there. But through all of that line of questioning, there's also the paying attention to what really is the DNA, the financial DNA of that individual. How does he or she think about money and having more money or debt or any aspect of finances? Because that's where we now know there's been Nobel Prizes awarded for behavioral economics, behavioral finance, and that's something that decades ago was really not all that heard of or common, whereas now I think it's a requirement for any good advisor to be able to understand who is this person on the other side of the table, and know that you could have. I often tell clients I could have 2 clients that on paper are 100% identical, same net worth, balance sheet, cash flow, portfolio. But if something happens externally in the market or taxes or estate planning laws, et cetera, that I might institute a change, I might do something completely different for that first client than the second client. Yeah. And it's because of that non-black and white. That it's not about the zeros and the dollar signs. It's about the again, how they tick, how they think about money and what's going to work for them. It's a journey.
Well, and guess how you figure that out in your example there with those two people that look on paper the same way. How would you figure that out? And the answer is you are developing a relationship and getting to know them on a personal level. And I spoke to someone about 2 months ago. This person, I think he was in New Jersey or something, but he worked with a couple, a person who was trying to figure out when should I file for Social Security, right? And he said they came to me with this printout from some other advisor, and he was giving like a second opinion. And he said, look, they gave me this printout, and it says I should do this, that, and the other, and whatever. And this advisor just started asking questions, and lo and behold, discovered that there was one piece with, I don't remember the details, but like, that you're taking care of your disabled grandson or something like that. And all of a sudden, that one thing would not have or did not show up on the software, but now, boom, caused a dramatic increase in what they could do. And it all comes from someone knowing what to look for. It's like the example of the guy that goes, oh, my car is making weird noises. Let me take to the mechanic. He looks around under the hood, taps it with a hammer, and goes, okay, it's fixed. That'll be $100. And he goes, what? You just tapped it with a hammer? He goes, yeah, but I knew where to tap it.
That's right. Bingo. That's exactly right. My firm has a strategic relationship with another firm, another registered investment advisor, another RIA. But the other RIA focuses solely on providing 401k plans for small business owners. And so my point in bringing that up is the reason why we have this partnership is because the other firm said, boy, I provide this 401k plan and we do a good job for our clients, but I often hear questions that really are about the individual side, not the 401k for the company. And so that's why we're partnering. But the reason why I'm telling you that is because of what you just said, Mike, is that it's a different relationship, right? The 401k is a product, and it has to be the best product compared to all the other 401ks out there, and it fits, a need for the small business owner. But the wealth advisory relationship for the individual, it's a different level. It has to be a deeper, trusted relationship, so that way the advisor can figure out exactly what is behind the question. Hey, Jim, how did my portfolio do? Really, behind that oftentimes is the question, am I still okay? Am I still going to be all right? Am I still on plan, right? And so, and the client needs to embrace that too in order for, I tell people that the best success stories I have working with clients over all these years comes when it's truly a partnership. Now, I was very deliberate about naming the firm Saza Wealth Partners because I approach the client relationships as partners. It's not just you hire the advisor and you sit back and they do all the work, and it's also not, the advisor slams a client into just this cookie cutter model, like you said earlier. So it's a partnership, and they have to win together, and therefore they have to both contribute together. And there's plenty of success stories, and I think that's the goal with each new client.
Yeah, it really is. And, you talk about standing out and differentiating and creating relationships. And I think that all of that sounds really, in a word, cliche, like, oh, well, we develop relationships. Of course you do. Why wouldn't you? But what do you find your firm or yourself doing that really amplifies that? What does that look like for real?
Good. Yes. I think that, I think there's a couple things. When I started the firm, I actually had some of my peers in the industry say, hey, Jim, I don't know if you want to focus on working with a small business owner because they typically have all of their assets in their company and they don't have a portfolio for you to manage. And I think to me that was music to my ears because it was not a problem with the client. It was a problem with our industry's historical approach to how we charge fees. And specifically, the fee is based on the size of the portfolio. Yeah. And the work being done can vary client to client, as we've talked about. So one thing I did when I started out is I said, look, if I'm going to work with small business owners, I've got to have a fee structure that fits and it truly underscores that partnership. So part of the fee is for investing, and that's based on the size of the portfolio, as it should be. But it does not start at 1% like the typical fee does. It starts much lower. It starts at 0.65%. The other part of the fee is based on the planning. And the planning fee shouldn't have anything to do with the size of the portfolio. It should have to do with how much planning I am or am not performing for that given client. And there's some clients that say, I need all sorts of help and I have no time. So, this is what I need from you, Jim. And then there's other clients that say, I need to make sure that I'm still on track to retire. And otherwise, I really don't need a lot of ongoing planning help. And so that's all reflected in the fee. And so I like to tell clients I can almost guarantee, because there's no such thing as guarantees in life, I can almost guarantee that my fee structure is going to be a better fit for you depending upon your situation. So that's one thing. I think a second thing is that, and this is probably just an advantage that a startup firm has, just about any industry. There's this fintech explosion that's been occurring over the last decade, and there is an incredible amount of analytical power that's at the fingertips of any advisor that puts it to good use. So I've definitely tried to structure the firm and the planning solution that we put in front of our clients to take advantage of that. And of course, we know technology keeps costs down, and that it just provides more value to the client-advisor relationship. So a heavy dose of software in order to enable some high-quality conversations and the best advice for any given client.
And that what you just said there reminded me of my example of before, which is, let's not just rely on, your knowledge in your head and relationships. And also let's not just rely on a computer printout, because you print that out and spit out some numbers and it's like, okay, well, how about that other thing I forgot to mention. So you're doing a nice hybrid of, let's rely on some AI and data and wonderful technology today. But now that's the starting point. Now, from what you told me last week and from what I know about your business and from what you had said about what you want to accomplish, why don't we now just tweak this and polish that and make this, really, really perform the way you want? Now we're using technology in a customized way.
Correct. That's right. And it really covers a variety of different topics. So there's the typical retirement planning, and I think that that's super common, but I also think it's super important because of so many business owners that do have retirement on the horizon. But another webinar I held and an offer that I put out to clients, to business owners, had to do with valuing their own business. Typically, you go hire a valuation firm. It can take 3 to 6 months, and it can cost you, $20,000 to $30,000, even $40,000, depending upon the business. But there's alternatives to that, and valuation is not a be-all, end-all, but it's the beginning of so many conversations. Like, what's my firm worth today? Where do I want it to be so that I can exit the firm? How do I know that that future price after taxes is going to be enough for me? Maybe they're considering some internal succession plans and some internal transactions with the next generation of leaders at their company. And so, again, a great example of how a piece of software really opens up a lot of different conversations. And frankly, that was probably the most successful and sought after offer I've put out there in my 7 months of doing this so far. So definitely speaks to the demand that's out there.
Now, when you are talking to a business owner, what if the conversation heads to the direction of what's my business worth? Are you sharpening the pencil and coming up with a valuation for them?
Actually, what I would do is I would use that valuation software that I just described. It's a little bit tricky in the sense that I am focusing on that market. I am currently a small business owner. In my previous role at a different advisory firm, I was the managing partner there. So I definitely bring firsthand experience of running a business to the client relationship. But the services that Saza Wealth Partners offers are designed for the individuals. They're designed for the owners, the executives. And I think that, one thing I'm going to be assessing as I continue to grow the firm is how much of the services meet the demand of the small business owners and executives out there.
But am I correct in thinking?
And is there?
Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, I was just going to say, or should I be thinking about offering more business-specific advice in addition to? the individual advice.
Yeah, that's where I thought you were going to go, and it made me think of this question, which is, when you are working with the owners, decision makers, key personnel in that business, having the business valuation helps you to frame up what you would advise on the personal side, the individual side. Maybe you're not making business, investment decisions, but knowing that valuation is helpful for you to make some of those recommendations. So, that, to me, that's where the power comes in of seeing all of those pieces. What if the business valuation was, if you think of a pendulum, what if it swung one way, and the business is worth $1 trillion, and maybe that would affect one way or the other how you would make recommendations. What if the business was going under, then that certainly would make, your recommendations different. So I think whether you go and directly make business, investment decisions, boy, knowing that valuation and having that great software to help bring that up helps you to see all the pieces that you're working with and gives them options, I would suspect.
That's exactly right, Mike. It's the beginning of the conversation that can go down the road of, hey, you might need some business coaching or working with somebody to help develop a better business strategy. Where are you trying to go and how are you going to get there? Same thing on the personal side. You want to be out of this business, you want to retire in the next X number of years. How do you know that that's the number you need? Well, we can plan on all of that based on the starting point of that business valuation. I've been doing this for 7 months, this offer of this business valuation tool. I will tell you that I always ask people what they think their business is worth, and the answers are all over the place. Meaning, when we do get the valuation number back, there are as many people that thought their business was worth more as there are thought that it was worth less. The software will tell you that they've gone out and audited their results against private market valuations, and their valuations have consistently come in within 3 to 5% of the private market valuation, but the business owners have not, from my experience. So this limited sample set here. And that just tells you that, if there's one thing, no matter what industry, geography, size of their business, if there's one thing that they all seem to have in common, is that they don't have enough time to work on the business because they're too busy sprinting to work in the business. Yeah. Bingo.
Yeah, it's like the old Michael Gerber.
To your point,
E-myth.
That's where this comes into place.
You got it.
Sorry?
I was going to say it's the old Michael Gerber E-myth. You got to take time to work
Bingo.
on the business, not in the business. So that might look like, hey, the first Friday of every month, you need to get in your car and drive up to the mountains, and you need to sit by the brook and sit there with a pen and paper, no phone, and think and pull out your notes and go, what do I need to, where's my business head? And then when you get back down the hill and work in the business, that's answering the phones or the emails and doing your thing. So that's a huge point that you bring up. I really think that's important.
Yeah, and I told them, I said, look, as your business grew and you started realizing you needed more help, you went out and you hired that expertise. You needed somebody to take over, the manufacturing side of the business. So you went out and you invested in that person and you delegated those responsibilities. And it's not as though you disappeared as the owner, but you just needed help. You needed to expand. And the same thing applies to these owners and these executives of these firms when they translate that to the personal wealth side. So, you are spending so much time focusing on creating and growing your personal wealth, and it's gotten to the point where there's not enough time in the day for you to be a do-it-yourselfer. And that's where, just like in your business, you go out and you find that trusted advisor and you delegate and you bring in some expertise, you delegate so you can focus on the things that you cannot delegate. And you don't disappear from the relationship, but you don't spend the hours that the advisor does on that topic.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, you know what, Jim, let's wrap up with this question. And I think that I always love to bring in like a personal element. You work with the Alzheimer's Association. So talk to me a little bit about what you do for that and your annual walk to end Alzheimer's.
I'm actually glad you asked about that. Alzheimer's is this terrible disease that unfortunately is on the rise. And it affected my family. My father was diagnosed years ago, and actually this year is unfortunately we lost him to Alzheimer's in June of this year. Oh. And so my family, we've kind of participated historically in the annual Walk to End Alzheimer's here in the Denver area with the Colorado chapter. This will be our 5th year walking, but I think that I think we can do more, and we're seeking to do more. And one thing I love doing is bringing together kind of the business with the community. And so as my firm continues to grow, we do have some plans to marry the success of the business with the fight to end Alzheimer's. And so more on that to come. But, I feel like there's more and more people that are impacted with one degree of separation, a grandparent, an aunt or uncle. And it's a battle, it's a fight, and we're making progress, but we're not done yet.
Step at a time, and that's an old cliche, but of course that ties right into annual Walk to End Alzheimer's, so it really applies that way. So I really feel for your mission and passion that you want to help out with that, because you might feel like it's I'm just a pebble in the ocean. Well, have you ever heard that story about the grandfather and the grandson walking down the beach, and he's pulling out, I don't know, like the starfish, and he's throwing it back, and he's like, oh, but look, there's hundreds of them. You can't save them all. And he goes, yeah, but I can make a difference to this one right here, and I can make a difference to this one right here. So it's,
that's right. That's
every
right.
little bit that you can do helps, and I think that's really awesome.
Perfect. Couldn't agree more, Mike. Couldn't agree more.
Awesome. Well, Jim, let's wrap up with what's the best way people can reach out, connect with you, and learn more about your firm?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is to visit our site, www.sazawealth.com. And there's a place to explore a little bit more about us and to schedule a conversation. And that's the first step in the walk in the journey is that conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jim. It was really a pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.